Ashton's the kind of guy who can break Eric Dickerson's rookie rushing record. He's that kind of guy. This dude is a tank with a Ferrari engine.
Lewis, how have you been?
Been a long time. I've been good. How about you guys? Everything good there in Chicago?
We think so. Like we're right in our wheelhouse of winning the offseason.
Yeah, I was going to say we won the offseason so far.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know how much more you could really do. I mean, you always have so much hope and so many expectations at this time of year, and obviously it reaches a fevered pitch as you approach the draft, and everyone's really optimistic. But there's a lot of real tangible reasons to be optimistic there, considering a lot of the work that's been done, including the coaching staff and the players that have been brought in.
Was there a move in particular with a player, or is it Ben? I know it's a combination, but if you were to pick one, the Bears' best move of this offseason was?
Well, I think it's the combination of three interior players on the offensive line that, for me, philosophically, is exactly what needed to be done. And what probably always needs to be done when you're talking about building your offensive line and building your football team anyway. I know people say it's a baseball analogy. For me, it really just goes back to all the things that Bill Belichick used to say in Cleveland way back in the day about how he wanted to build the football team in Cleveland, how he tried to build a football team in New England. He wanted to build it inside out. He wanted to be strong down the middle. He wanted to be built front to back. He wanted to be able to attack people between the numbers down the field, defend the field inside out, make them throw the football outside the numbers. He used to drill that over and over and over again. Well, you just look at Chicago now. What did they do this offseason between Tooney, Dahlman, and Jackson? That's exactly what they did. Now, you could say, well, they didn't need to really address right tackle because Darnell still has to come on. He has to come on in year 3. Yeah, you're right. Could they have tried to do something? Could they still try to do something at left tackle? I guess they could. But where they started and where Ryan tried to really fortify this football team is in the interior. And those are 3 solid moves. And look, think back to the days for me. This is where this really hits home for me as far as the building your football team inside out, especially offensively. I think back to the days of Drew Brees when he was in his heyday with Sean down in New Orleans, and how they had Jari Evans and Carl Nicks at the guards, 2 of the highest paid players in the league. And the name of the center is escaping me right now, but they didn't skip at tackle. I mean, obviously you can't just put highway cones out there, but they wanted it to be secure in the pocket so Drew could stand in there. Now, obviously he's a guy who's not 6'5", 6'6", so he needed to have those sight lines to be as clear as possible. But I love that philosophy, to create a nice secure pocket so where it's not constantly being pushed in a quarterback's face and making him flush and run out of there and feel like he has to. Well, isn't that exactly what they're trying to do for Caleb? To try and make it so he doesn't feel like he has to constantly be hauling ass out of the pocket and doing all kinds of things that really can lead to bad plays, but he can read things out in the pocket and get out of there when he wants to. That, to me, seems like what they're trying to do. And on top of it, they're going to want to mash you in the run game. When you saw Ben tried to kill you in the run game in Detroit, they're going to want to try and hit you with that. And what's the best way but to get push at the point, at the apex, right in the middle of the offensive line? So I like what they did. Now, we'll see if Joe can duplicate some of the performances he's had in the past, if Drew can live up to his reputation, and if Jonah Jackson can have a solid, year at right guard, and if Darnell can continue to come on, because you can tell that's what they're trying to do. So what more can you ask of them? So, yeah, I'm optimistic.
Lewis, on the coaching front, do you believe that, knowing that they have Caleb Williams under center, that Ben Johnson was the right guy for this job?
Absolutely. Look, it's with his rapport with Caleb on a personal level, his ability to get him to play within the confines of his offense and sprinkle his own flavor on it when need be. Not everybody can get players to do that, Tommy. You know that. He got Jared Goff to play in a way that really took his game to a whole nother level from the time that he was in Los Angeles, when he wasn't too damn bad in Los Angeles. He did take his team to a Super Bowl. It was basically or throw or 2 away from beating the Patriots. So it's not like he sucked. But he took his game to another level then. Now, it had a lot of help. it had a top 3 offensive line. It had an absolute sledgehammer and lightning combination at running back. It had the great tight end. He had a lot of things, but Ben was obviously able to get him to play fundamentally sound football, have a varied attack in terms of playing from the pocket, executing the boot game, changing launch point. And Caleb can do a lot of other things that Jared Goff can't. So you know that Ben now can really put his creativity to work. But I think just getting him to play confident, getting him to play clean, getting him to play fast, and getting him to just use his wonderful talent when he needs to, not because he has to. Yeah, I have full confidence he'll be able to do that because he just had like I said, he had a hell of a couple of years run with Jared. And look, Caleb is more talented, just throw for throw, athlete for athlete than Jared Goff. And that's not being disrespectful to Jared. That's just being honest. He's more talented.
Yeah.
We'll see if he can get it out of him.
Well, on that front, now being a few months removed from a difficult season for Caleb, how would you evaluate what you saw from him, Lewis, considering all of the different factors that were involved here in Chicago?
It's hard. It's hard, Sylvie, to really evaluate it because, not arguably. There was obvious to the people who make the decisions in Chicago, there was a competency issue in terms of maybe how things were being taught to him, communicated to him, adjusted for him. It started to affect his confidence. He started to play in a way that wasn't winning level football. He started to regress. He started to, he didn't play the game clean, play the game clearly, like he saw things clearly, like he understood things clearly. There was a lot of times where you looked at them schematically and structurally, you thought that doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of how the routes married up, in terms of how the play sequencing married up. Like, what are you trying to get done? What are you trying to set up? Are you just calling plays off of a call sheet? Or are you trying to set things up? And look, those are the kind of things that it's hard to really evaluate. Well, was it just the quarterback who was just messing stuff up, or is it the coordinator? Was Shane really just that bad? Was it just not a good relationship? There's so many freaking things that you have to dig into, and no one really can unless you were in that meeting room and on the field for walkthroughs and on the field for 7-on-7 and team and then on the headset for the games. There's so many things that happen that you just don't know. So it's, for me, there were flashes of good, too much bad. That's why they had to make a change. That's why they wanted to make sure that they were getting what they thought was the best possible person to see that their number one overall pick came close to or actually realized his potential. So I think it's a total fresh start in my mind. It should be in everyone else's.
Yeah. Lewis, to your credit, you were, and we're talking to Lewis Riddick, Waddle and Silvy on ESPN 1000. You were one of the guys, one of the few who said you'd go Jaden Daniels. And yep. I'm not ready to concede yet. Sure. So, me. But do you still believe that Justin can be the great quarterback? Caleb. I said yeah. Justin. That Caleb, we've been through so many quarterback discussions with Lewis. That Caleb can still be the great quarterback we want him to be.
Yeah, I do. And see, you know what I hate about picking players as far as, well, who would you go first? Because people automatically think, well, because you like one, you think the other one sucks and you hate him, and that he's not any good. And that wasn't the case. I just had a preference for Jaden because I had a good rapport with him when I met with him. I loved the way he interacted with his guys down at LSU during his workout. I loved the trajectory of his career, what people told me, the kind of work that he put in, the kind of in the kind of process he went through to get to where he had gotten to as far as winning the Heisman Trophy. When I watched him throw at his pro day, it was freaking beautiful. Beautiful. And his running ability, and I just thought it was all very, very, very unique to me. And it wasn't like, well, it's Jaden and then Caleb is like multiple tiers below him. Wasn't that at all. Do I think, that being said, do I think that he can reach his potential? Yeah, I do. Look, we've seen this story with quarterbacks who have second, third, fourth, fifth, hell, seventh, eighth year, resurgences, or rather where they hit their sweet spot because they developed that rapport with a coach, whether it be the head coach, the coordinator, quarterback coach. And just think about what Sam Darnold did this year with Josh McCown and Kevin. And he speaks glowingly of a guy like Josh McCown, how important he was to his development, how, these guys being former teammates, how they just had a different rapport. Josh was able to go to Kevin and be like, hey, let's just call all go here. Hey, let's just give him a quick three-step. Those kind of things that he can communicate to the play caller to get the guy and keep the guy on the straight and narrow. When things start getting inside, all those things are so damn important. And I think that can happen in year 2, 3, 5, 7. Hell, it can happen in year 10. These guys, Caleb's young. He's still learning. Now he has to buy in. He has to want it the same way. He has to want to develop that relationship. He has to be a great communicator. And these guys have to be confident as hell and do what's best for him. And the people around him have to support him. Offensive line has to be good. The running game has to be solid. The defense has to give him some short fields. All that stuff. It's never just one thing. And look, we have to all caution ourselves and kind of remind ourselves not to do this. But we're like, we live in the blame culture. We have a blame culture, blame society. Let me find someone that I can put this crap on. Let me just find somebody who I can say it's your fault. You suck. You're great. You suck. You're great. And it's not like that with football. And we know it, but we do it all the time. We do it. We want so bad to call a player a freaking bust and not pay any attention to what happened around him. And we want so bad to say this guy is great without saying anything about all the things that lined up for him and studying why he was great. And with Caleb, no, I'm not throwing him the towel. Yeah, I still believe he can do it. He's done some stuff in his career, both college and during his 1 year in Chicago, that makes you go, yeah, we've got ourselves here a hell of a prospect. Let's just see what happens in year 2. Jaden, they caught lightning in a bottle in Washington. Yeah. It worked perfectly with Cliff. It worked perfect with Dan Quinn. It worked perfect with that city. It's perfect. But to see if in year 2 Chicago can get the same thing.
I was going to stretch it out even longer, Lewis. I was going to say, hey, 5 years from now, do you think that you will still feel that definitively Jaden Daniels is the better quarterback? Or do you think there's a chance that we could be having a different conversation several years from now?
Of course we could. Because you know what? I can't tell you what Jaden Daniels is going to do with his life and with his work ethic between now and 5 years from now.
Right.
I know where I'd bet and put my money based on what his track record is. I'd say the guy's going to turn out to be one of the all-time greats because that's how he's wired. That's what he wants. That's what's important to him. He's demonstrated that up to this point in his life. But I don't know. You see, that's the thing. I don't know. And you know what? I wasn't there in the building with Caleb, but I sure would think that given all the success that he has had in his life and in his career, and with Ben Johnson, what he showed he can do when he was the man in charge in Detroit, I'd bet on the upside.
Right.
I really would. And we don't know, in 5 years, let's just hope that we're all here living and breathing. And you know what? Let's have this conversation. Let's just have this conversation at the end of next year.
Sure.
I'd be willing to revisit it then because that's what's fun, man. That's what's fun about this business. Projecting future performance is a hell of a thing. It's tough as hell, especially when you're not. It's not like we're there. It's not like we're in the meeting rooms. We're not coaching them. We're not calling the plays. But you know what? If he winds up having a better year than Jaden, then I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who go, see, idiot, you suck. You got it wrong. You got it wrong. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. I did. It's my fault.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Lewis, so as we go to this year's draft,
yeah,
the Ashton Jeanty conversation in Chicago is probably the most polarizing. Waddle and I don't want them to take him at 10.
We acknowledge how good a player he is.
Why not?
Because I feel like what you said about Belichick earlier, that they still have a ways to build this thing up front and on both sides of the line. They're still not good at the defensive line. That this is still more of a luxury pick, and you could still get a really, really good running back with one of your twos, maybe your third. I believe they still have to hit either line with number 10. So it sounds like you may be on the opposite side of that. Talk to us.
No. I hear you. Look, man, you never can have enough I can't really explain just like how much, seeing the Super Bowl in person and really studying those teams, obviously, before we called that game, how dominant Philly's offensive line was, like how big, physical, nasty. Like it was just like, you don't see that too often in the NFL where one team just, and you know what? Like Kansas City's front really played well. I mean, they held Saquon they neutralized him about as well as anybody's done all year long. So I give them credit. But that football team, building an offensive line, look, I'm all for it. Although I will say this, and I said this a couple of weeks ago. If Dahlman and Tony and Jonah and Darnell Wright can really hit his stride and show the kind of explosiveness and nastiness that he showed at Tennessee, and whatever they're going to do at left tackle, they can get good physical O-line play out of that position. And Ben can call the plays the way he wants. Look, I think the interior three guys will be good, too. Really, really good.
What about
Ashton's the kind of guy who can break Eric Dickerson's rookie rushing record. He's that kind of guy. This dude is a tank with a Ferrari engine in it. That's what he is. I've seen him in person. I've seen him up close. I'm telling you, when I saw him on the field at the Fiesta Bowl, I was just staring at him, and I was like, no effing way. Is that guy able to move the way he does? He is 5'8", 5'9", and I bet he don't have more than 2% body fat at 215, 210. There's no way. And he's like a power lifter, just muscles, like fibers just firing every freaking where. And he's so nimble and so quick and so powerful, can catch the ball out of the backfield and has home run speed. I'm going, you give him enough carries, he'll get over 4.5 a carry next year. He'll be over that.
So is that the best way to go, Lewis? Like if Campbell's on the board, say
Will
Campbell, the offensive tackle.
Yeah,
no, I love.
and if Genty's still there, which way are you going?
I love Will. Will ain't gonna be there. He ain't getting past the Patriots.
He's not.
What do you make, Lewis? Where do you side in terms of the arm conversation, the length of the arm?
I don't get too caught. There's a lot of guys who have 34, 5, 36-inch arms at tackle, and they don't play like it. They don't play like guys who have, because one, they can't land them. They can't time it right. They can't land them. They don't get any separation. Look, Will Campbell's arms are, let's see what, I think, what was he officially
It was 32 and change, but then at his pro day, they measured him at 33 on his pro day.
Yeah, 32, 32.6, yeah, it was. So, but if you watch him, his hands are like vice grips. Yeah. And he constantly plays with full extension. He blocked some of the best pass rushers in the SEC and stoned them all of them. Guys who were going to go in the first round. He gave them nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nimble, nasty, all that. I wouldn't have any issue with it. He's better than Braxton Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Tell you that.
But you don't think there's any chance that he falls to the Bears, is what you were saying.
I don't. I think there could be 2 tackles that go off the board before him. I think Membo could go 7 to the Jets. Yeah. Pair him with Fascino, the first rounder from Penn State last year, and put Fascino at left, put Membo at right tackle, the kid from Mizzou. I think there could be 2 tackles that go off the board. Honestly,
Lewis, where do you think Genty will go?
I don't think Genty gets past.
Does he go to the Raiders?
Yeah, I think John Spytek or Jim. I think he'll take him for sure. I do, because I think that's what Pete wants. Pete wants that dude. Pete wants the modern day Marshawn Lynch. Mm-hmm. He wants to play, and that Chip Kelly would be like, hell yeah. Yeah, Ashton on top of it. Look, guys, I mean, he is A+++ kid. He could have left and gone anywhere this year in the portal and got paid a king's ransom, and he played for pennies basically. Relatively speaking, at Boise. He's that loyal. He's that great of a worker. If you ever get to meet him and talk to him, I mean, you'd be like, shit, I want this guy on my. Excuse my language. I want this guy on my team. I want this dude on my freaking team. And he's a tank. He's Emmitt Smith with 4.4, high 4.3 speed. That's what he is.
Is he your favorite player in the draft?
It's awful close. Yeah. You know, because I love the person. I love the person. You know what? He's so different than Cam Ward. Cam is no nonsense. Cam's a killer, man. No nonsense, an assassin. But I love that about him. Carter is like real soft spoken. It's hard to get a word out of him, but the dude just plays like an absolute maniac. You know, Tyler Warren, I've seen him mock to you guys, mock to the Bears at 10. Tyler's a stud. He'll be an All-Pro.
Do you like him better than the kid from Michigan?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. As a blocker, you know, just as like that's so hard to say because you know I will say this. Colston he's a little small. Well, he's 248. He's a little smaller. Tyler was 256. Mm-hmm. Colston plays hard as hell. He blocks his rear end off. He's got great footwork, great pad level. Even though he's 6'6", but as a receiver, he's probably even a better. He's faster, can get open more, create more separation. But Tyler Warren's just a freak, though. He's just a freak competitor. I mean, he's a great basketball player when he was in high school. He's just a freak competitor. That's a tough one for me, man. That's a tough one. Maybe because of Colston coming off of the injury, he had that AC joint, you know, that he had surgery on, like I guess the beginning of this year. Maybe that makes you go, Tyler's a freaking stud. That one's hard. I might go with Tyler before that, just because I got to meet him and talk to him. He took over that Fiesta Bowl game, and he beat the living crap out of SMU's defensive ends and linebackers in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, he embarrassed them with his run blocking. So I love that dude. Yeah. But this year, the tight end group is so good. Elijah Arroyo from Miami, he should be a Pro Bowler. And you're talking 6'5", 255. You see him in person, you'd be like, damn, is that LeBron James out there? I mean, he's perfect. Mason Taylor, you know he's got great bloodline. Say Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green. He's just an absolute catching machine. A machine. 120 catches, 1,500 yards this year. You know, he will not go down on first contact. Just a great competitor. Yeah, I mean, there's some studs, man. This is a good year if you want a tight end.
All right,
a real good year.
And Lewis, so put the cherry on top of the sundaes. We were just talking, like, if Genty's off the board, and then what you mentioned, Will Campbell's off the board. Give me, like, and you mentioned Warren already. So give me 2 or 3 other guys that we should be very happy if the Bears draft at 10.
Well, let's see. If you're talking offensive line,
how about pass rushers
or anything? You give me your.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing, man, about the pass rushers, right? You know, Shamar Stewart from A&M is going to go high. He worries me a little. He doesn't have any production. He just doesn't have any production, and that bothers me a lot because he hasn't been able to really tie his moves together. You know, James Pierce, there's some character concerns with him, the defensive end out of Tennessee. Honestly, if there wasn't that issue with him, James Pierce reminds me of Javon Curse. Now, he was going to go at the end of the first, but boy, oh boy, would he'd be someone. He's like the profile that you would want there in Chicago, but he won't go nearly that high. I don't know, maybe Kelvin Banks from Texas. I'd be happy if I were you guys with someone like that. You don't need a guard, so Graves Abel from.
Is Mason Graham off the board by 10?
He will be, but see, there's another guy that, you know, I've seen him mocked as high as 5 to the Jags. He's another guy, though, that doesn't. Like, you remember Braden Fisk, obviously, from Florida State, who went to the Rams? You know, him and Jared Verse, his teammate, went there. They went 1 and 2. That's what he reminds me of. He doesn't remind me of a top 5 pass rusher. He's not Aaron Donald. You know, he's not a John Randall type. He's not a Warren Sapp type. That's what I'm thinking I would want to get at 5. So I'm not that high on him. I'm not. If Armand Membo from Mizzou was able to, you know, if the Jets pass him up, if he doesn't go to one of these tackle-needy teams, he'd be one of those guys. You know what? I'll tell you what. Okay, Mike Green would probably be the edge from Marshall that if I were you guys, I would be really happy if I got him. 6'3", 250. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. You watch his tape. This dude is nasty. This guy has heavy hands. He's got great power. He's got a good high side speed rush. He can hold the point of attack. I mean, he had production. He had production this past year. I mean, obviously, the level of competition isn't the SEC, but you're talking about 17 sacks, 32 hurries, 2 forced fumbles in 13 games. And now he is an explosive, great-looking body type. Great-looking body type at 6'3", 250. That would be one I'd be happy with. I don't know if he goes that high. He might. At 8, I would put him in there with, I've seen guys like Jalen Walker get from Georgia get mocked to the Panthers at 8. And if he went there and Mike Green's still on the board, he's somebody who I would consider.
Lewis, would you be concerned with Bears specific with Membu actually only being a right tackle and being forced to have to go left?
There's the problem. Yeah. That would obviously be the issue. That's why at first I said, look, maybe you go with, when you're talking about the tackles, maybe you go with Kelvin Banks. Look, Kelvin is solid. Kelvin is real solid. But he has 15 starts this year, left tackle. He had 14 last year. Just a solid, steady, powerful player. Great competition he played against. He's another guy who went up against some of the best pass rushers in college football. Like Ohio State's pass rushers are not great athletes. They weren't great athletes this year. But, I mean, he handled them with ease. He gave them nothing. Georgia gave them nothing. All those athletes that they have at Georgia gave them absolutely nothing. So maybe there's another one that you really think about. But, yeah, just keep an eye on a guy like Mike Green.
Lewis,
that would be a good one for me.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, when I buy a team, I'm going to hire you as my general manager. I've always said that. But that's a fantasy. Are you frustrated and do you still believe that you're going to get one of these eventually?
I'm past frustration. I'm not. I really, Sylvia, I'm over it, man. There was a time where it really, really bothered me. It really bothered me because I had some great contacts. I would be able to put together a great staff. I'd be able to hire an A-plus coach. It's amazing the network of coaches that I've been able to develop over the past 11 years at ESPN because I get to travel around and talk to all these guys. And they actually get to see me talk about football now, where as opposed to if I worked for a team, they wouldn't know anything about really what I think. Just what other people would tell them. But they've seen me talk about the game. I get to talk to them, interview them in production meetings and at the Combine and at the Senior Bowl. There's no doubt. There's no doubt I could do it. But it's not always that simple. And I'm not really pursuing it anymore. I'm really happy doing what I do. I kind of like the freedom my schedule gives me. I have a son who's 14 who's like a whale of a basketball player who we're going to be covering on ESPN in the next couple of years.
NIL.
Yeah, exactly. And when he picks where he's going to go to school. So I love traveling around to his tournaments and seeing that and stuff. When he gets to college, I'm going to be that guy at every game like Cooper Flagg's parents. I'm going to be there in the stands every single game. So I'm at a different point in my life. If it happened with the right people, if Deion Sanders jumped to the pros, and then I'd go. I'd be in there. But it'd have to be like that kind of situation at this point in time because it's not worth the mental anguish it put through me when you get disappointed that you don't get a job. I mean, it's anguish for me. I really take that hard, and it really messes with me. So I'm just I'm in a good place professionally right now, and I get to talk to you guys like this.
Yeah, and we love it. We wouldn't trade it for anything. Lewis, all the best. Love the honesty, and it sounds like you're fired up for this thing. So can't wait to watch you.